Hey everybody, Mr. Piercy here with some example problems on how to use the midpoint formula. So the midpoint formula, as we showed in the investigation, was how to find the exact middle between 2 points. And essentially what that was telling you, the formula that we worked out, is that we take the average of the x-coordinates of the 2 endpoints and the average of the y-coordinates of the 2 endpoints, and we wound up with the midpoint formula. So here's just a few examples of things that we're going to be doing with the midpoint formula. Now, essentially there's two skills, or there's two things that we will ask you to do with the midpoint formula. Obviously, given 2 points, where's the middle between the line segment that connects them? And secondly is if I give you an endpoint and a midpoint, can you find where the second endpoint would be using the midpoint formula? So let's go ahead and practice these here real quick just to get a little bit of our sea legs under us, so to speak. Now, uh, I consider it a fundamental math skill. Anytime that you use a formula, you write it down. So the midpoint formula says x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And you can kind of put it in parentheses like this if you want to, because essentially that's what we're doing. Let me just clean this whole thing up here. You can put it in parentheses like this because we are finding a coordinate, and this is how we write them out. So here, for all intents and purposes, I'm going to just look at the coordinate that's on the left of the problem and as point 1, and the point, and obviously the second point is point 2. So in this case, I'll use point A as my first point. So when I substitute my numbers here, we'll just say negative 5 plus 10 over 2. And for the y's, we'll get 3 plus negative 1 over 2. And now we can just simplify it. So here I'm going to get 5 over 2, and 3 plus negative 1 will give me 2 over 2. And simplify the fractions, and I'll get 2.5 and 1. So here is our first midpoint that we're finding. Now the formula itself isn't overly complicated, all right? So when you do these things, they become fairly routine fairly quickly. So find the midpoint between JK. So again, start with the formula. And so here I'm going to say 2 plus 0 over 2, and negative 6 plus 4 over 2. So in the numerator of the first one, we get 2 over 2, and then negative 6 plus 4 gives me negative 2 over 2. And so we'll wind up with a point here of 1 and negative 1. So there would be our midpoint of that one. And let me pick another color here for the last one. So again, start with the formula. Oops, writing that one wrong. Part of the reason why I ask you guys to always write the formula is a lot of times for this class, for an advanced class like this, I won't give formula charts. And I do kind of expect you to remember the formulas when you need them. So here I'm going to say negative 2 plus 3 over 2, and then I'll say 7 plus negative 4 over 2. And then we'll get 1 over 2. And then 7 plus negative 4 will give me 3 over 2. Now we could actually stop there if we want to and leave our answer as a fraction. Or you could say 0.5 and 1.5 as the midpoint. So that's the first and foremost skill that you're going to be asked to do, is just find the midpoint of a line segment, and that's going to be something that you'll use uh, for future things. It's not so much here's the midpoint and then we're done with it. Uh, Finding the midpoint of a line segment for figures is going to be something that we'll be practicing at some point. So whenever we say, hey, we're using this thing now, you just have to recognize, oh, it includes the midpoint of this object, so I have to be able to remember how to find the midpoint. Now this is the second skill that you'll be asked to do with the midpoint formula. If I give you the midpoint and one of the endpoints of a line segment, can you find the second point? So we'll go ahead and call the second point B, just to kind of keep things simple here. We'll just say we're working with segment A and B. Now I'm going to set this one up slightly differently because what I have to do is I have to find an x coordinate and a y coordinate, uh, and I have to use the midpoint formula for both of those things. Now, when I was finding the midpoint, it was really easy to just work it all together at the same time. For this one, it's going to be a little bit different. Now capital M is obviously for the midpoint, so I'm going to use a subscript of x to show that I'm going to find the midpoint of the x coordinate, which is found by saying I don't want a parenthesis here because I'm not going to find the y coordinate at the same time. But remember, this is x1 plus x2 divided by 2. So what we're trying to do is essentially find what is the second x value, what is the x value of the second endpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to still substitute the numbers just like what we do with any formula. I'm going to take the x coordinate of the midpoint, which is a 4, and I'm going to substitute it for the capital M. The x coordinate of point A is 3, and instead of just saying x sub 2, I'll just call it x because that's what I'm looking for. And now we wind up with, this value here. So this is just a regular algebra problem at this point. Start by getting rid of the denominator, and I'm going to run out of room here if I don't move that over. There we go. So get rid of the denominator by multiplying both sides by 2. So here 2 over 2 ultimately will simplify to be 1. So I get 8 to be equal to 3 plus x. And then move the 8 from the right side to the left side through subtraction, and I'm going to get 5. Oops, not 5 equals 5, but 5 is equal to x. So that is the x coordinate of point B, the second end point. And essentially I'm going to just kind of repeat that for the y coordinate of point B. So we'll say y1 plus y2 over 2, and substitute the values. So the y value of the midpoint is 6. The y value of point A is 4. And again, here I'll just say y. And same thing, multiply both sides of the equation by 2. And on the right side, the 2 in the numerator and the 2 in the denominator simplify to be 1. They don't cancel. That's a thing that algebra teachers like to say. They simplify to be 1. And this would give me 12 is equal to 4 plus y. Move the 4 over through subtraction, and we will get 8 for the y coordinate. So point B is going to be at 5 and 8. And finally, for our last example, let's just pick another color here. Essentially the same thing that we just saw in the first example. We're just, repeating the process with a different set of numbers now. So because I'm finding the midpoint here, I can't really work it out at the same time as I would if I was just finding the midpoint. So now substituting the x coordinate for the midpoint, I will get 8 equals -1 plus x over 2. Multiply both sides by 2. On the right side, the 2 over the 2 simplifies. And on the left side, I'm going to get 16. Move the 1 over through addition, and the x-coordinate of point B in this case will be 17. And then repeat the process for the y-coordinate. Substitute the y-coordinate for the midpoint, and I get a 1. The y-coordinate of the point A is 5. Oops, I'm not paying attention. And so again, multiply both sides by 2 to clear out the denominator. The 2's on the right, simplify. On the left side, I get 2 to be equal to 5 plus y. Subtract 5 on both sides, and I get negative 3 to be equal to y. So in this case, point B will be at 17 and negative 3. And that's essentially what you'll be asked to know how to do with the midpoint formula. Can you identify a midpoint if you are given 2 endpoints? And if you're given the midpoint and 1 endpoint, can you find the second endpoint? So if you have any questions about the midpoint formula, or if there's something you didn't quite understand in the examples that I gave here, be sure to let me know in the comment section of the classroom or through email, and I would be happy to help you. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching, and take care, and we'll see you then.